Awesome. Well, today I would like to share with you, please prepare yourself. You're going to hear some embarrassing parts of my story as a content creator. So I'm going to share with you my top 5 mistakes that I made as when I first started marketing my content and nurturing the readers and consumers of said content. So I made lots of mistakes when my first book got picked up almost, let's see, 3.5 years ago, it got picked up. So these mistakes were ones I was making before it came out and when it came out and all the marketing process and connecting with readers. So travel back in time with me, if you will, 3.5 to 4 years ago, and listen up to make sure that you don't make these same mistakes either. And like I said, drop any comments or questions in the comment section below. All right, so we're going to share my screen now, get us some Google Doc action. All righty. I'm gonna present. And I'm gonna try to keep this video short because I realize that not all of you have time to watch a 45-minute video of these live sessions when we are sharing tips for you as a spiritually attuned go-getter to cultivate peace, patience, and productivity toward your goals. So I want to make these videos as easy to apply to your lives and accessible. And I know that 45 minutes worth sometimes isn't always doable and helpful. So I'm going to try to keep this one to 15 minutes today. And again, even after the video, you can leave comments in the Facebook group thread below this video, and I will get back to you. Coffee break. All right, so these are the top 5 mistakes that I made in marketing my content and nurturing those who read it. So first mistake that I made, make sure I can see the clock okay here. It is 1:07. Okay. One mistake that I made, that I did not craft a pitch soon enough for my book. And this is an elevator pitch, if you will. This is stating who you serve, what specific result it helps them get. And that can be super, super helpful in sharing with people who've been hungry for your message. It is so helpful to serve them in a clear and concise way so they know immediately, is this content for me or is it not for me? And one example that I had for that I did not craft this soon enough was I was asked to be on a ministry leader panel at a conference in Orlando right after the book came out. And there's so many lessons in this story, but I'll try to keep it short and you can take from it what you will. But on this panel that I was asked to be on, the person running the panel did not introduce us. She asked us to introduce ourselves. And this, I knew very little about marketing at this point, because again, this is almost 4 years ago, before I had committed myself to learning as much as I can about marketing my content. And now I get to thankfully help others in the process too. So in this moment though, I did not know how to market my book. And this book was, like most creations, all creations, I believe, that people in this group create, this was a divine nudge to create this book. And it was a book, a huge book that could help a lot of people, and most importantly, help a lot of kids from troubled homes. So anyway, so she asked us to introduce ourselves, and I was so awkward. I thought, what do I say? How much do I share? What are the other people going to share? And I was sitting in between 2 authors who already had huge audiences. I think the guy to my next to me, I think he has like 24 books in ministry related to children and family. So I was definitely the rookie on this panel. And I thought, no one knows me. This could be a huge opportunity to get help people who want to be served by the message of my book, help to serve them and help them with the problems that they're having in their ministry setting. But I didn't know what to say. And so because I wasn't equipped at marketing, because I didn't craft my elevator pitch, what came out of me in my introduction ended up coming off as self-serving, egotistical, and not serving others. I think what I said was something along the lines of, my name is Meg Calvin. I have been at this church for this many years in this position. And I had a book recently come out this past September. That's what I said. And so what I should have said in that moment was the elevator pitch that I crafted a few months after this, which is, my name is Meg Calvin. I've been in ministry doing this position for this many years. And my new book that is for the busy practitioner in children's and family ministry who wants a how-to guide on offering hope to kids of troubled homes. That book just came out. I'd love to connect with you about it if you feel that will serve you. So you see, having a well-crafted pitch could have served my audience a lot better. And I felt it in that moment that I did everyone in the audience that day a big disservice because I didn't craft an elevator pitch for my book sooner. So I'm going to go over, we have a viewer. Welcome viewer. Go ahead and drop any comments and questions. Sorry, I can't see who you are as always. It was in that moment I realized I did a big disservice to everyone in the crowd that day, because they had this great tool that could help them serve kids of abusive or neglectful families. And I didn't do my job, my ethical job of letting them know about it. And so it was so crazy in that moment that I thought, man, I should have said what the book was about, because there's probably someone here who's working with a kid that needs this book. And as soon as I said that, as soon as I introduced myself in a way that was not helpful to anyone there, someone in the crowd shouted, "I've read that book. It's really, really good and helpful." And so it was hilarious. It was so funny. It was as if God wanted to remind me that day that there were people in the crowd that needed to know how the content I had created could serve them. They were hungry for the message that God had given me. And if I wasn't going to do it, someone else was going to do it. And so it was really funny, but that was a big mistake that I made. And what I did not craft a sentence or 2-sentence pitch about my content early on. So a little reminder of what that is. And this applies to if you were doing a blog, vlog, book, podcast, whatever your product is, that this blank form of content helps target market blank get specific results. And so for example, I'd like to show you now one of the authors in this group, Tim Higgins. He and I just started working together, and he's an author and vlogger, and we're working together to grow his audience. And so he recently changed he has a pitch now that says, "This book is for Jesus followers who are seeking to authentically follow Jesus, even if they feel like they'll never be able to live to his standard." So this is a different take on a pitch. And so there are different ways you can add to it, and at different styles of copywriting and different moments of pitching your book or your content. And so this book is for Jesus followers who are seeking to authentically follow Jesus daily. Another way that we're reworking this, and we'll use in different ways, is this book is for Jesus followers who are done with church and want to know what following Jesus will look like. Like, boom, I am your target market. The person that's been so hungry for your content is going to see that or hear that and say, "Oh my gosh, I got to buy 5 of those books and I got to read them once a year. I'm in love with this content. This content's for me." So don't make that mistake as before your content even drops. If it's a book, a podcast, a blog, whatever it is, craft this sentence or 2. This blank helps target market get specific results. So how does it help them? Okay, man, I'm doing really bad at keeping on time, making it 15 minutes. So this one is number 2, the second mistake I made. I didn't understand what authentic relationships with niche mates look like. So niche mate is a word coined by amazing marketing coach George Cow, and he's been on our videos before in this group. So head over to the videos and check that out. He's about joyful productivity and marketing. Anyway, niche mates is the term that implies that there is no longer any competition, that there's room for all of us to succeed. There's room for all of us, even if we have a similar message and a similar audience, there's room for all of us to succeed. And our unique perspective and personality and gifts and quirks, those are all needed. So a niche mate is someone who is doing similar work as you are to a similar audience. And when you join together, you not only learn and grow from each other and with each other, but you grow each other's audiences by sharing each other's audiences. And it's a blessing. And if when you find someone that you can work authentically with, that there is a mutual respect and equal give and take, it's a beautiful thing for the ministry of your content. And once again, helping you grow and learn together. And since you both have similar goals, think of how strong you are together. So one example of this that I did not understand was I was invited to a book signing, a book sale and book signing at a town over. And there were two other authors there. And one of them was writing children's books, and one of them was writing books about, oh gosh, I'm trying to be polite. It was a different kind of book. That's what I'll say. And both these authors, they were selling books. I was selling books. We were all signing. We were set up in like a triangle in this big holiday, this big festival that this town was having. And so I thought, oh, I need to support other local authors. I'm going to buy both of their books. And so it made sense for me to buy the children's book because my daughter did love it. But the other one, this is not a book I would have ever read. And I think I dished out $30 that day to buy both of these books. I'm like, oh, I'm supporting them. And it came from a place, my motive was heroing them. I was trying to save them, and they didn't need saving. They were doing fine on their own. They didn't have any interest in buying my book. They did not buy my book. And even before, this is going to show how ridiculous I am. Even before the event, when I was marketing mine, that I would be at this festival selling and signing books, I was also plugging their books. And they didn't know me from Adam, or from Eve, I should say. They didn't care about my product, me, or my audience. I didn't even know these people. We had not entered into any implicit or explicit agreement that we would be mutually respecting each other and sharing each other's work. So I think that from the business end, I lost a little money that day because I spent it supporting these people that we were not in an authentic niche mate relationship. So on the business front, I didn't make as much profit as I could have that day. In my mind, I told myself it's worth it because I'm investing in niche mate relationships, but it wasn't worth it. I wasn't going to get anything on the return end of that at all, except feeling awkward. And then I ended up gifting the guy's book to someone else because it wasn't my audience. I personally wasn't interested in the subject. And so I ended up looking ridiculous. And so this is a really good mistake to avoid, that in this game, it's a beautiful game to play in content creation, in solopreneurship, in all your marketing, that there are people out there that you can enter into authentic niche mate relationships with. And they, as I said, have a similar audience, they have a similar message, and you share each other's work gladly because you want to get their message out there, and they equally want to get your message out there. And you can share gigs with each other, and you can promote their work. Hey, to your podcast friends, interview this person. You're going to love their creative process. Or he has quite a story of what he overcame with God's help. You're going to really want his story. And so, and your motive for sharing the work of your niche mates, your motive is never, I'm going to do this now in hopes that he or she owes me a favor later. Like, there's not this weird slimy angle. It's this authentic, I care about this person. I care about their work. Their work is going to change lives and heal lives. So I'm going to share this niche mate's work. And it's authentic. As I said, there's a mutual care and respect there. And as you begin connecting with other content creators that are out there, you'll quickly realize that not everyone is going to be interested in entering a healthy, authentic niche mate relationship with you, that there are takers out there. I shouldn't laugh because it's not funny. There are takers out there who don't want to play the game from integrity, from a place of integrity, and don't get burned like I did on situations that I won't share on this because I'm a good Christian. Just kidding. But understand sooner the authentic relationships with niche mates and what these look like. And if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, and I share other people's works, those are my true niche mates who we have entered into an authentic relationship. There is mutual respect there. We share each other's work. We send people to each other. And that comes from a place of authentic respect. And if people are guesting on Tuesday nights in this show, like D. Grant Smith is coming this Tuesday night at 7 Central Standard Time with relationship advice. Those people that I've invited to guest on in this Facebook group with me, they join us in our live sessions. Those are authentic, healthy niche mates of mine that we are each mutually giving and receiving in this dance that we do. So recognize that sooner. And as soon as you have a red flag or a gut reaction that someone might be a taker, if you have any sense of that they're not going to play fair, they're coming, their motive isn't pure, get out of it as soon as you can. All righty. So the other mistake I made, what time is it? Okay, 10:21. Awesome. Let's aim for 10:30. We'll get out of this video. Okay, the other mistake that I made, number 3, when I first started marketing my content and nurturing those who read it. The other mistake that I made was the message in my marketing didn't match the tone of my book. So again, with the first book, it was a how-to guide in offering hope to kids of hopeless how-to guide and offering hope to kids whose home life seem hopeless. And it was for the busy practitioner, teacher, or nonprofit children's program coordinator. So the book was heavy. I was able to, but it was also and simultaneously equipping and light-filled on purpose. And one of the feedback that I got from one of the endorsers was, I was surprised this book was so witty considering the topic. And so that obviously if you've connected with me before in any live session or whatnot, witty is something that I value, and quirky is is a part of who I am. So that naturally came through in the book, and that is good. That's part of me. The mistake I made, though, for example, let's take a look at actually, no, I'll wait to do that. The one mistake that I made, though, was when I would market it, sometimes as I would market talks that I gave or book signings, I would type in my copy on social media, the Bluebonnet Child and I can't wait to be with you. And so looking back now, like, what was I thinking? That was the title of the book. And that would have really worked, I think, if the book was a children's book, if the book was a novel, but the book was a ministerial resource, a teaching resource for serving kids of really troubled homes. And how can our nonprofit programs be equipped to be supplemental families to those kids? And so the rainbows, unicorn, sunshine, jovial spin I put on it, the Bluebonnet Child and I can't wait to meet you. It didn't work. It was similar to, I think, a horror, like look at this movie poster. It's called Sinister. They found what's inside. The image is horrifying. It's a very scary face. And then I could here, come check out this new comedy, Sinister, starring Eddie Murphy and Tina Fey. Like there's a big disconnect, And that was obvious in my book, in my marketing, that the message in my marketing didn't match the tone of the book. So it has been, so I've had to be really, really careful in marketing the Bluebonnet Child, that because it is light-filled and it speaks to the healing power of God and how God has the final say in our healing, and there's no wound too deep, and how we can help kids from troubled homes. So I had to be really careful and intentional on that. It has been so freeing. In the second book, I Am My Own Sanctuary, How a Recovering Holy Roller Found Healing and Power. It's been really helpful in that because it was a satire, a spiritual satire, that I was able to totally let loose and be as quirky and satirical and witty as I wanted to be with the book. But that was, I had to be very, very, very purposeful. And now in marketing them both, I intentionally take a different tone to match the genre of book, the voice of the book. And it's this mistake that I made, while I'm just speaking of the copy that I wrote, this applies if you are self-publishing, obviously. If you are the one making your cover of your book, this applies to the cover colors, the fonts, any image that you use for social media marketing or your email marketing, that the message in your marketing needs to match the tone of your book, podcast, vlog, whatever. Okay. Oh my, this is probably my biggest regret. Obviously, as you can tell from joining me in these Facebook Live sessions, I love to verbally process things. So this is okay sometimes. But what I did, one mistake that I made, is I content dumped on all the podcasts, plural, that's a typo, all the podcasts that I was asked to guest on. And this one I'm still getting over. And it's as if whenever I'm asked any question as a guest on a podcast, I just share way too much. Not from a place of, well, that was personal, but I share too much content. It's just too long. I talk too long. I ramble, and I give 6 or 7 tips. I wrongfully and unhealthily feel that this audience wants to hear everything I have ever read about this subject matter, ever. So I'm going to quote every author, and I'm going to sound really smart. And it comes from nerves, obviously. It's not healthy. It's not helpful. It's overwhelming to the listener. It's rude to the host who wants to have a conversation with me. Yeah, it's a really bad mistake. And there are so many, so I highly encourage you to do what I did not do. And that is, before you guest on your first podcast, research YouTube, how to be a good guest on a podcast, and get some tips. These are the main ones that I have gathered after making many mistakes of talking way too long on as a guest. Okay, so this first one, tippy tips. This first one came from last week's guest that we had on Tuesday night, Jonathan Heston. He's a coach and author, and I'm in a course with him right now. And when I shared my extreme nerves about guesting on podcasts, and that I would rather sometimes speak to 1,000 people, I would rather do this, go live. I would rather host as I host on the Listening Chair podcast. I'd rather be a host. I don't know where these nerves were coming from. So I shared this with Jonathan, and when he shared I shared it with a whole Zoom. It was 25 people that I shared that I get so nervous when I'm asked to guest on a podcast, and I blow it. Anyway, I talk way too much. Is that what he shared with me was the frequency of the messenger matters more than the message. Sorry, the frequency of the messenger matters more than the message. Yeah, I was right. And so what he meant by that is that I have nothing to prove or defend when I'm guesting on shows. And what matters most is to be in integrity and honor how God wired me, and to show up in that frequency. So to be present, to be curious. And this is very different than the way I was showing up, which was, I need to be a human encyclopedia right now and dish out as much information as I can, which isn't helpful. And like I said, it's overwhelming. It's not natural. It's rude to the host, but I did it on a lot of shows. You can see them on my website under press and interviews. So I started really trying to, and I encourage you to do the same, to getting centered and breathing deeply before I got on the show, and reminding myself that I have nothing to prove, nothing to defend, and that my frequency matters most in how I show up. Am I showing up in integrity, honoring how God made me with this message and this gift that I know there's a listener out there that has been desperately waiting for me to show up and share this gift. I'm going to sneeze. Sorry. Coffee break. So, and then another rule that I think will help you when you start guesting on podcast is to, depending on the type of content, if they're asking you for specific tips that people could apply to their lives, share 1 or 2. Don't share 7 or 10. This is speaking from experience. Again, keep it concise. The list for the listener that is already on content overload, their days are busy. So give them, simplify to 1 or 2 tips that they can carry with them. Actually, you know what? I feel like my own goal as someone who talks way too much is 1 tip, and then wait for the podcast host to, here's an idea, be in conversation with you and ask a clarifying question or for you to expound upon that. And so then you're ready. Then keep it, obviously, as I've said, keep it conversational. I know one of the most I've loved, and I've been honored to be on so many, not so many, I've been on podcast guests. I've been a podcast guest many times, and there's so many good ones. One that specifically stands out as a great host is Dr. David Dalt on NPR show, Things Not Seen. And he said to me, because he was on our show, The Listening Chair podcast, and then we did a live show with him. And then he invited me to be on his show and talk about the book, the second book. And before, as we were just hanging out after the live show, he told me one thing that annoys him the most as a host, as an interviewer, is that when he feels as though he's not needed in the conversation. And I know that I need to apologize, because I've made lots of hosts feel that way, because I just get to rambling off in content dump land, which is not helpful. So keep it conversational. Don't be afraid to pause and think about your answers. Oh gosh, I'm already at 10:31. What a great, this is so meta, isn't it? Don't be afraid to pause when you're thinking of your answer and ask. Don't be afraid to ask questions back to the host. Make an observation about a question. That is an interesting question, because that question implies blank. I think the first thing that comes to mind. And so if you are like me, an extreme extrovert who verbally processes everything, you run a risk of not pausing first, of just getting in this nervous loop of content dump and content dumping, and you just talk more and more and more because of your nerves. So pausing, if you are those that just chimed in, this is one mistake that I made when marketing my content at first, was on podcasts that I was asked to guest on. I was in content, I just rambled, content dump, and it wasn't natural or conversational or helpful. So to prevent you from making that mistake, pause first and gather just one response that you want to share, and this allows it to be conversational. Oh, hi Madison. Thanks, D Grant. Glad you approve. I think it's so good. So this is one thing. This is definitely, and D, if you're still watching, this is like your world, because you were in before relationship coach and author, you did radio work, right? We're going to let Tim respond. Not Tim. We're going to let, talked about Tim earlier, so I'm thinking about him. We're going to let D respond. Oh gosh, I lost my train of thought. Oh, well, yes, because be sure, breathe when you're asked a question. Decide, do I want to ask a clarifying question as a guest? Do I want to reframe the question? Do I want to that's what I thought. It's essential marketing stuff. So good. So good. And yes, that's what I thought you were. Yeah. So this is D Grant's world. Once again, join us Tuesday night at 7 Central Standard Time. D Grant going live with us, 3 relationship tips. And he has tons of radio experience and marketing experience. So I'm glad to hear that these land with him. What I used to do that was not helpful is I would be asked a question on a show as a guest, and then I would think back, oh, I have 3 tips I could give on this. And they were all, of course, long-winded tips. And the host couldn't get back in the conversation to make it conversational. And I was awkward and, again, not helpful to the listener who is busy, most likely overloaded with other content, and wants just 1 or 2 tips from you. And you hook them. They're hooked. They're curious. They think, oh, this content is going to serve me. I want to know more about Jolene Basil. So I'm going to, oh, I should have put one more tip down. I'm going to do the thing that she asked me to do at the end. So when you are guesting on a show as a guest, keep your call to action simple, simple, simple at the end. So the host will usually ask you, how can people stay in touch with the work that with you and the work that you're doing? And so I would say no more than 2 call to actions for them to follow through on, because the person that is listening, you are serving them. They've been desperately waiting for your message to come into their lives for years. Now here it is. They got you for a 30-minute interview, but they really want more because you did your job well. At honoring how you were wired and showing up authentically and giving them great applicable tips. So what's the call to action? To keep it very simple, say, find me on Instagram and get on my early bird list for this book comes out in September. As simple as can be. That might have been even flirting with being long. What I like to do now on mine is, what's my call to action? And this, of course, will change depending on what type of content you're launching or providing. And so keeping your call to action simple. What I like to do is I say, head on over to megcalvin.com. You get the first 50 pages or the first chapter. You get the first chapter of my book for free. And the simple call to action so they know how they could stay in touch with you when they leave. And Dee Grant, who's watching and is a marketing expert, is saying it's essential relationship building to be clear with people. So there's clear communication and building trust. Yeah. What you're teaching now is a practical way of giving empathy. Think of what will work best for the audience. That's simple and easy to receive. Yeah, definitely. For sure. For sure. Okay. This is the 5th tip of the day, and I will keep it very short because we're already over time for my own goals today. And that is that one massive mistake that I made was I was invited to this ginormous conference, and the other publishing company that wasn't mine, they were another one. They told me over the phone, I got it in writing, I thought I did everything right, that they would have copies of my book there. And this was a, let's see, second largest event that I have done. It was a really big deal for the book. The book had been out. The book had been out 7 months, I think 7 or 8 months. And I was super excited to speak on the book and sign the book and make an offer for people that felt that the book would serve them and for them to buy it there in person. And so that did not happen because the company forgot my books. And so from that moment on, I bought some, I know authors and content creators move differently with this idea. Some like to buy tons of copies of their books. I think Dee Grant does that with Be Solid. And I have not done that yet, where I buy en masse and I ship them to you. Maybe I will someday, but I haven't done that yet. But after this event, I bought some copies of my book, and I got them cheaper directly from my publisher. Then I could sell them for whatever I wanted. And I priced them from a place of integrity that felt like a true value exchange. And I had them in the back of my trunk on every event I go to now, just in case the person who said they would have them doesn't. So what I did do from this mistake was I redefined success for myself during that day. And I just went to town networking with people and connecting with people. And I had flyers for the book and if I felt like it would serve them, I shared it with them. But yeah, that was a huge mistake. So I hope you don't make that one. When you go to events, always carry extra books with you, just in case the vendor or this other publisher, whoever, third party, whatnot, even if they told you they'll have them, just to be safe. That was a big mistake that I made early on. All right. So just for fun, because I know some just tuned in, we'll review these top 5 mistakes that I made in marketing my content and nurturing the readers of it. one mistake I made, I did not craft a perfect pitch for my first book soon enough. And I go back and rewatch a horrible situation I told you about at a big conference. And then reminding that this form of content, whatever it is, vlog, podcast, blog, helps target market specific person, busy stay-at-home moms, Jesus followers, my target market, spiritually attuned go-getters, or recovering holy rollers, get specific result. How exactly does this book help? And then the second mistake I made was I didn't understand what authentic relationships with niche mates look like, and I got burned. And then the message, my marketing message at times did not match the tone of my book. Big mistake. And then as I just shared as I shared way too much on how I share way too much on podcast interviews. So practicing being clear, concise, natural, all the things, and helpful when you guest on shows. And then I remember to take copies of your book to all events, even if someone promises, hey, we're going to have these for you here, because sometimes they're humans and they forget. And so let's see, comments from D says, keep a spare book on you always in case you meet someone who wants a copy. They usually will give you cash and beg you to sign it. It's a special moment for them. Yeah, that's awesome. And so true. This is great advice. So thank you, everybody. And D, so good to be with you. Again, join us. Go ahead and let me see if I can share. Come back Tuesday night because D. Grant Smith, where are you? Let me see. D. Grant, oh, you're so welcome. Here it is. Come back in this Facebook group Tuesday night, 7 Central Standard Time, because D. Grant Smith, who's on the message board right now, is joining us with 3 tips to grow healthy relationships, a Facebook live chat with author and coach D. Grant Smith. So come back here Tuesday night with us. It's going to be a blast. And tag me below with any of your questions. I can't wait to be with you and serve you then.